Shalom, 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 shalom. First and foremost, giving infinite praises, glory, and honor unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Ba'ashem, Wachakodash, giving double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone and Shalom, and salutation to all you sensei Akim across the four winds, pushing this truth with sincerity of heart, and also Shalom to the few Akwaf, the women, the daughters of Zion, women of Israel that believe in his gospel. Of course, double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone and Shalom, and salutation to the faithful elect. This lesson goes into the Israelite women, the daughters of Zion, the so-called black, Hispanics, and Native American women. Beginning, of course, with the so-called black women. As we know, the so-called black woman has been, her mind, her spirit has been hijacked for the most part by Esau, the Edomites, the so-called white race. And she's committed high treason, which, in the grand scheme of things, there's no way that that she was going to refuse the help that Esau basically put out there. The thing is, as an Israelite man, as Israelite men, we understand warfare. We understand what happens when you lose the war. Your women are no longer yours, and women are not loyal to losers, and especially in this captivity, in our final captivity, the Heavenly Father Yahweh was not going to allow the Israelite women, beginning with the so-called black women, right, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, to be in subjection to us, because the primary reason why we are in this situation is because the Israelite man has fell off. All right, the Israelite man became disobedient. So at the end of the day, we don't lay the blame at the shoulders of the woman. Just like when you go back to the Garden of Eden, yeah, Eve was the first one to commit sin, and but we are well aware that Adam basically gave up his power and allowed Eve to be out of order. He became weak, so therefore his kingdom was compromised because of his weakness. So yes, we do get on our Israelite women, because they also are under the dominion of the law. They don't just get to not keep the laws, and they don't get to just not have faith on us and just make it just because they're women. They're Israelite women, and they have to be faithful in subjection. Now, we're going to deal with Peter's, because Peter speaks about the ornament of the Israelite woman. As all hell's getting ready to break loose, as we know, the MOTB, the mark of the beast, is getting ready to be established. The elect are not going to take the mark of the beast, the microchip, but there will be great temptation. And according to the scriptures, the majority of Israelites are going to take the chip. Primarily, the majority of Israelite women are going to take the microchip, because they are indeed the weaker vessel. Now, for the sisters, the Israelite women that do believe, right, that do attempt to believe and are sincere, there's certain things that they have to do, and it's not really a lot. But the thing is that although there's not a lot that's required from the Israelite woman, the little bit that's required from the Israelite woman is extremely hard, because they are hardwired by this wicked kingdom, Babylon the Great, to not be able to do these things. Right, these basic things that's gonna play into their salvation is very, very difficult for them. Now, this is 1 Peter chapter 3:1, subtitled "Godly Living." It says, "Likewise, ye wives, be in subjection to your own husbands." All right. In this society, the Israelite woman is hardwired to be in subjection to her boss at the job over being under your subjection, meaning under your authority. Women are able to be under men's authority. Women have always been under men's authorities. It just depends on the man that she's gonna bow down to. So she's either gonna bow down to you, or she's gonna bow down to her boss at the job. So her boss will tell her you can't dress a certain type of way, and he'll send her ass home, and she'll come back the following day dressed appropriately. Now, when she's with you and you trying to tell your wife you can't dress like that, she's like, well, you can't tell me nothing. So this, the dynamic that's going on in Babylon as a whole, but also primarily in the nation of Israel. So brothers have to be aware of that. And Paul is going to talk about dealing with the Israelite women with knowledge. All right. Now let's keep going. It says that if any obey not the word, they also may without the word be won by the conversation or conduct of the wives. So it's imperative that Israelite women are in under authority of their men, because you have certain unbelievers that would struggle to accept the word, but just due to the order, right? Just seeing the order between the Israelite man, the believer, right, the hopeful elect, and his woman being in order, that's going to be a major influence, and that's going to be something that he's not used to. In this society where women are completely out of order, that's also one of the reasons why you see these other camps. When you have their women kind of feign. When I say feign means fake humility and fake being out of order in these different camps. It's appealing to a lot of the Israelite masses, because although those camps' doctrines are not up to par, it's what's appealing is the fact that they see a bunch of Israelite women that are feigning subjection, acting like they're under authority. But of course, we know better than that. When we see what they put out there in their tapes and all that, you can clearly tell that they're feigning subjection. Now let's go to verse 2. It says, while there behold your chaste conversation or conduct coupled with fear. Verse 3, it says, whose adorning let it not be that outward adorning of plaiting the hair and of wearing of gold, or of putting on of apparel. So basically, Paul is challenging the Israelite women, like you Israelite women that call yourselves believers. He's challenging you to also elevate from the carnal presentation of being beautiful by making sure your hair's done, and making sure you have your jewelry and all that, things that make women beautiful on the outside. So he's not telling you not to do that. He's challenging the Israelite women to go deeper, right? And understand what true beauty is, and it really has to do with the inward beauty, right? And he's going to talk about that. It says, whose adorning let it not be that outward adorning of plaiting the hair, and of wearing of gold, or of putting on of apparel, but let it be the hidden man of the heart. All right, just like we are challenged as Israelite men to focus on the inner man and not the outward man. All right, meaning we're challenged to go deeper. We're challenged to go to the source, our spirit, to be better, to love each other, to have mercy, all these different things. All right, the Israelite woman is also challenged to a certain extent to go deeper than her physical appearance. All right, because that's ultimately not what makes her beautiful. As we're gonna go into the scriptures, it says, let it be the hidden man of the heart, in that which is not corruptible, even the ornament. All right, it's the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit. Now, this is the ornament of the Israelite woman. So if you call yourself being a believer in this gospel, right, especially if you listen to our teachings, right, our elders, Great Millstone, and all the different elders and the brothers across the four winds, if you call yourself a believing sister, a believing Israelite woman, you need to understand the ornament that you should have is of meek and a quiet spirit, which is in the sight of the Most High of great price. Now, when you look up the word ornament, the word ornament means an accessory, something that serves primarily for use, but also may serve as adornment, ornamental apparel, jewels. All right, so the jewels that you're supposed to have is what? It's a meek and quiet spirit. All right. Now, when you go further down, it says adorn. It says from stem ordo, which is arrangement. See order. All right. So when you're talking about adorning yourself with ornament, it really has to do with order. All right. So the beauty, the true beauty of a woman, especially in this season, because this is the season where the Lord is challenging all of Israel, the Israelite man and the Israelite woman, to go deeper. All right. We being challenged every day to go deeper and to look beyond the surface. All right. As far as like our behavior, our conduct, what the scriptures calls conversation, and the Israelite woman is also challenged. If you say you believe, you're challenged to look deeper than just your looks, right? But what's truly beautiful about the woman and the sight of the Lord, because it says, because you got Israelite women that said, well, you believe. Well, if you believe, especially like if you don't have a man, right? If you happen to be a sister that doesn't have a man, but you still want to appear in good report in the sight of Yahweh Shemel Shah, where it tells you your ornament, your jewels, your beauty should be of meekness and a quiet spirit. And what I tend to see is you'll see a lot of sisters just doing a lot in the comment boards, and some of them make videos. They just can't be quiet. And like I said, like, this is really what they need to do. They're not asked to go out in the highways and the edges. They're not asked to do all the critical things that we do. They're just asked to be meek and quiet. But those things are very difficult for the Israelite woman to do, beginning with the so-called black women, because the curse is on her to not be quiet. All right. Deuteronomy 28 shows most of them have an evil eye. They don't trust their men, the Israelite man. And that's their biggest problem. The biggest problem for the Israelite woman now, even the ones that call themselves believing, is that a lot of them, they want to bypass the Israelite man and deal directly with Yahweh Shai and Yahweh Shem Shai, and because they are in the same situation as far as like captivity, right? We're all in the same situation. A lot of Israelite women have a hard time perceiving the greatness of the men that they're listening to. That's why, brothers got to constantly make lessons reminding them to be meek and to be quiet. Like the best, and this is the reality. The best of the stock of Israelite women that are going to be saved are the ones that you never hear about. The ones that you always hear about, they always kind of want to be seen, right? They have to be heard. They have to say something. Those are not the best ones. Now, it doesn't mean that they're not going to be saved, because, for childbearing's sake, and if they already ordained to be saved, they're going to be saved. But the best of the Israelite women that the Lord has kept, they're the ones you don't see them, you don't hear from them. They watch. They don't really do too much. You don't know of them. You don't hear from them, and they are the ones that are truly precious in the eyes of Yahweh by Shem Shah, according to scriptures. So, the rebellious spirit that our women have, they just refuse to be meek and they refuse to be quiet. They just feel like they got to say something. Why? Because they don't trust our authority. They say they believe in the Lord, but then they don't trust in the prophets of the Lord. All right. They don't believe in us like that. That's the issue with women. That's something that's part of being in captivity, man. That's why as men, what we do is we have to continue to move forward. And the ones who follow us are the ones who follow us. And the ones who don't want to follow us and they believe that they just get to deal directly with Yahweh Shem Shai and bypass the Israelite man, because the Israelite man is a slave just like her. These women are not going to make it. They're in total delusion, right? And it is what it is, right? Now, let's read this in the NLT, right? Because I really like the way they put it in the NLT. Subtitle, Wives, First Peter 3:1. It says, in the same way, you wives must accept the authority of your husbands. Then even if some refuse to obey the good news, your godly lives will speak to them without any words. See, as I explained earlier, there will be one over, right? I mean, when you see a man and a woman in order, especially a so-called black man, Judah, and the Judah woman and in order, that sends out shockwaves, man. That sends out shockwaves not only within the nation of Israel, but also it sends out shockwaves to our enemies. All right, because the biggest thing, the scariest thing to the Edomites is beginning with the tribe of Judah as a Judite male and a Judite woman in one accord. That is this because that energy basically flows down into all the rest of the tribes, and that is the scariest thing that Edom, Esau, the so-called white man, wants to see. First Peter chapter 3:2, it says, by observing your pure and reverent lives, don't be concerned about the outward beauty of fancy hairstyles, expensive jewelry, or beautiful clothes. You should clothe yourselves instead with the beauty that comes from within, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is so precious to the Most High. So you have these Israelite women that say they believe and they want to be close to the Lord, but they just cannot be gentle and they will not be quiet. And the prophets of the Lord have to constantly make lessons and tell them, just don't say anything. Just because you're like, you think that the Lord loves you because you're heard, but you're just the total opposite. The Heavenly Father loves us, the Israelite men, because He wants us to speak more. He wants us to do more, right? He wants to hear from us. And then when we're quiet and we're not saying nothing, we're not preaching the word, it angers the Lord when we're not out there, when we're not speaking. But it's the total opposite for the women, the Israelite women. The Lord is angered when you're speaking, but He really, really looks favorably unto you when you're quiet. Men and women are not the same. The Israelite women and the Israelite women and Israelite men are not the same. Our standard, our requirement is different. What makes us glorious in the sight of the Lord is the total opposite. One must constantly speak and the other one must constantly be quiet. So you need to understand that if you really want to be beloved from the Lord, instead of being a total delusion out here, just being an annoying bug. First Peter chapter 3:6. For instance, Sarah obeyed her husband Abraham and called him her master. You are her daughters when you do what is right without fear of what your husbands might do. And that's the thing. They don't trust us. The Israelite women don't trust us. That's the reason why they believe that they have to speak. Right? They don't believe that they're covered just by believing in us. Right? They don't believe that our stand is strong enough to cover them. Right? Because that's the biggest fault of the Israelite woman, is not believing in the Israelite man. All right. Verse 7, it says, in the same way, you husbands must give honor to your wives. Treat your wife with understanding as you live together. Understanding. So you must understand when you brothers out there, you dealing with women, because you got brothers, which is a sad thing, man. You got brothers in this gospel. They've been in the truth for years. OGs in the truth, man. Knowledge. And I always speak about this to the brothers at camp. You got OGs in the truth, man. You know the breakdowns on the precepts and so on and so forth. But you don't know how to deal with women. You're still completely unaware of a woman's nature. How women move. How they the hardwiring of women, why they act the way that they act. And then you get into these relationships with these women and you don't understand them. If you don't understand women, don't be with women, bro. Because women will make you suffer in the flesh. But once you understand it, then you kind of work accordingly, and then the suffering would not be as great. But a lot of brothers are just, they're still struggling with that, man. Right? You think she's just gonna follow you just because? Nah, you have to understand that these women are damaged. The Israelite woman is broken. She's broken. So you have to deal with her accordingly. You have to sometimes lower the expectations and know when to raise the expectations and know when to lower the expectations. You have to have grace sometimes, and sometimes you just gotta let them go, cut them off. Because a woman could be a great help in this gospel, but she could also be your downfall. Like, she could help you build your eventual kingdom, or she could nuke that shit, man. So you gotta be careful when you're dealing with women. All right. So now let's go, because scripture speaks about ornament. Now, this is what the Lord has done to the Israelite woman. This is Isaiah chapter 3. And I'm just going to go straight to the point. Isaiah chapter 3, verse 17. Therefore the Lord will smite with a scab the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion, and the Lord would discover their secret parts. So, wait, the scab of the head. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can get this in the NLT. Isaiah 3 and 17. So the Lord will send scabs on her head. The Lord will make beautiful, beautiful Zion bald. And it's, man, I was at work today, man. This black woman came in. I mean, her body was looking right. So, I mean, from head to toe, as I'm looking up, I'm like, oh, man. And at the top, it was this bald skull, this cranium, right? And she was smiling, and I was just like, damn, bro. I looked at my coworker. I was like, damn, bro. Everything on her is tight. But then you see that bowling ball, that cranium, and it's just like, bro, that is just terrible, man. Terrible. I know she was trying to be confident, but nah, man. Like, it killed it. You know, that's what the Heavenly Father did. But why? Because of her mouth. See, the Heavenly Father is angry. Like I said, he's angry every time women speak, because women are not to be speaking unless they asked to speak, and then because the mind of a woman is something that she herself can't even control. The things that are, listen, you ever heard of like things like 50 Shades of Grey and stuff like that? Like you read a woman's diary. Like now, as a matter of fact, look at social media. Now with social media, you get to see what goes on in these women's minds, right? The hormones and all this stuff, the emotional irregulation. A woman's mind is total chaos. So you cannot, like, they say things that they don't believe. They say things because they might be upset and they don't even believe it, and they'll say it with confidence. They say things to destroy. They can say things to build. They're rarely in control of what they're talking about. They really understand what they're talking about, so they cannot be speaking like that. So, but the fact that the Israelite woman, begin with the black woman, can't shut up. Well, the Lord took away her hair, because that's her physical crown. She's incomplete without her hair. All right, that's the reason why. The primary reason why the so-called black women cannot compete with the rest of the women in the sexual market, as they say, because her hair is a problem and her mouth. Those are her biggest problems. But you do have sisters that are understanding that, and they're trying. And that's all they can do is really try. Verse 18, on that day of judgment, the Lord will strip away everything that makes her beautiful, ornaments, headbands, crescent, necklace. Why? Because all hell is going to break loose. So your outward appearance, you're going to look crazy. A lot of you, all you women, because I don't say a lot, because at the end of the world, man, we ain't going to be walking around with women, and then one of your women is like, oh, we got to take a break because I got to put a makeup on. Nah, man. A lot, like, you women are going to revert to looking, going back to your natural essence. And it's going to be some of y'all going to be looking rough, man. The Lord's going to remove all of that. All right. Because he's going to challenge you women that say that you believe. He's going to challenge you to go deeper, right? And to get past your physical beauty, and to really go deeper and find yourself and ask yourself what's your role in this, and what's your role in the story, in this gospel. And your role has always been what it's always been, which is to be a helper, a helpmate. And if you don't have a man, you're still supposed to be helpful in some way, shape, and form. And the best thing you could do is just be quiet, be gentle, and then be quiet. And that is truly what pleases the Lord. So now, I'm gonna I've already gone. These are basic. I'm just gonna go straight to the point, trying to close this out. This is Ecclesiasticus 26, and what's the point? Oh yeah, Ecclesiasticus of the Apocrypha, chapter 26, and I'm gonna go to 14. 13. The grace of a wife delighteth her husband, and her discretion will fat his bones. A silent and loving woman is a gift of the Lord, See that? A silent and loving woman. That's her ornament. So you can put all types of jewels and do your hair and all that other stuff and look at yourself in the mirror. But if you're not, as an Israelite woman, if you're not silent, you're not gentle, meek, and quiet, you're ugly in the sight of the Lord. And when you get out there and you open up your mouth and you run your mouth, you're going to be ugly in the sight of men and in the sight of the Lord. So if the Lord don't want you and men don't want you, hey, listen, I don't care what you do, man. You ain't going to make it. You're going to be destroyed here in Babylon, because that means you just ain't part of the elect. Because you can't be part of the elect if the Lord is disgusted at you and the Israelite men is disgusted at you. All right. Let me see. Verse 15, a shamefast and faithful woman is a double grace. Double grace. And her continent mind cannot be valued. Now, I looked up the word continent, and I was like, wow, okay, I got to share this. Continent, right? The continent mind, it says self-restrained, temperate, right? It's self-restrained. You want to say something, don't say it. You feel like you want to say, you feel strongly about what you need to say when it comes to this gospel, don't do it. All right? It says, especially abstaining from or moderate in sexual intercourse. All right? So, you can't be out there being a hoe, man. It just is what it is. It is what it is. You got to be careful as an Israelite woman. I mean, you know, let's say you're an Israelite woman, you happen to be with an unbelieving husband. You know, you got to stay faithful to that man and pray that the Lord opens up his mind. But you Israelite women out here and you out here opening up your legs and letting all types of spirits, you know, come inside of you, it's going to mess with your mind, man. Women are not supposed to be sleeping around like that. You know, it like the whole pair bonding and stuff is real, man. You know, it says holding together continuous. All right, hold together. All right, with together to near to hold. All right, it says to hold together, to abstain. So if you have a woman who has a continent mind, all right, who's able to abstain, who's able to have some type of control over her mind to the best of her ability, man, that's value. But most of us don't have it. It just is what it is. It's Babylon the Great. These women are hardwired to be off for the most part. But the elect women are gonna get it, and we know how. You know, these words, are really for encouragement. You know, for the sisters that do listen and that are meek and gentle and quiet. Keep doing what you're doing. The ones who can't help but talk and run their mouth, it is what it is. Do what you got to do, right? But at the end of the day, everybody's going to be held accountable for not listening, for doing whatever they wanted to do. All right. But when all hell breaks loose and everything that these women are accustomed to is taken away from them, when death and destruction comes and the carnage, the savagery, when those things happen, those are the things that are going to purify the minds of the elect women fully when they see the horror and the downfall of Babylon the Great. They got to see that. All right. As long as the movies are still open, the clubs are still popping, entertainment, the TV, the light is on. As long as the light is on, these women just cannot fully get to that level. But when the lights go off and all hell breaks loose, then you're going to see that transformation, because that's what it takes for women to get right, unfortunately. So, yeah, that's a lesson, though, for the day. Hopefully you will edify. Hopefully sisters that will edify through the spirit and power of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. Kahalam La Yahweh B'Shem, Yahushua B'Shem, B'Chakwadash. Giving double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, Shalom and salutation. To all you sincere Akim across the four winds, pushing this truth and sincerity of heart. And all you sincere Akwaf that are trying to the best of your ability, continue to stay strong, continue to be gentle, meek, and quiet. All right, that's all you asked to do. All right, because something got for me, DC Camp. Shalom.